The reason why change hasn't happened because we are afraid to take the leap without even knowing what we can land on. See, oftentimes being afraid is what stops us from identifying and walking to our greatness. But your greatness is on the other side of fear. But how do you recognize what you want to accomplish and how you accomplish it if you're so afraid to start? So being afraid, it prevents us from learning and growing and doing things that we really think that and know that we can do. But oftentimes it's the fear that prevents us from trying and to putting ourselves in uncomfortable positions. But to be afraid, you have to recognize what you're afraid of. See, that's the thing about the journey, about life and the process. Oftentimes we are so afraid of things that are not even in front of us because we are only afraid of our mind and our limitations. We place limitations on ourselves because we don't know what we can do. We don't know what we can become. We don't know what we can accomplish. But how do you stop overthinking the process when the process is so scary to begin? We're so afraid of change because change is so new to us. It is unfamiliar because we have been used to our everyday lives. But to be afraid to be afraid is stopping you from growing and learning and growing into the person that you can develop into. For the next 25 minutes, I'm going to be speaking about how you can conquer your fear and take control of you being afraid of the unknown. Because that's all it is. It's just the unknown. The thought of doing something and the answer is not in front of us is frightening. It's terrifying. It's overwhelming. So before I dive deep with this topic, make sure you subscribe, make sure you like, make sure you share this video with someone that you think is afraid of their journey, that is afraid of their process, that is afraid of them growing to the better version of themselves. If you listen to this via podcast platforms, make sure you like it, leave a comment, and subscribe. So that way you can get all the clips, all the videos, all the audios directly to you. My name is Terryl with the Humphrey, and welcome to Fair Years Knowledge. It's a special meaning behind the brand, behind the name, because you have to fail in order to gain the knowledge that you need to develop in order to become the person that you want to become. But how do you become the person that you want to become without taking risks and identifying that it's okay to be scared? It is okay to be afraid. It is okay to let your mind overplay your thoughts, to let your mind overplay your actions. That would sound a little bit better. And it's so important to recognize what we want to do, what's stopping us. Oftentimes we are the ones that's stopping us from learning and growing. But how do you learn and grow when growing is never talked about? I remember when I was in middle school, I was playing football. And then when I was playing football, I wasn't that good, but I was okay. You know, I did my part. I wasn't the top star player, but I was the player that played his role. So every game, every practice that we played, I'm the one that's there, that's bringing energy and inspiring everybody. I'm there growing together, because when you have a team and playing alongside great players and great people, you want to become great. But I was so afraid to let my team down. I showed up every day and did the best I could. But it's different, right? From middle school to high school is different strategies that you have to play, different ways that you have to play the game. And by the game, I'm saying football. And that was scary. I remember my 8th grade year, I was about to graduate, we was about to leave, and I was about to go into the 9th grade. But the difference between middle school football and high school football is the size, it's the weights, it's the training, it's the learning, it's the longer games, right? But how do you prepare for something when the preparation is already in front of you? How do you prepare for something when the preparation is already in front of you? Why am I saying this? Because oftentimes we are already prepared for the unknown. But it's our mind that put limitation on our fears because we are so afraid of the unknown. I didn't know what I was getting myself into when high school came, when high school football came, but I had a great year. I had a phenomenal year. I played linebacker, and it was just so fun. It was just so relieving. You know what I mean? I had the chance to play with my high school family. And we built a bond so tight because we showed up every day for each other. We didn't know what the day game or practice was going to deliver, but I was able to see people that was in the 10th, 11th, 12th grade, how they played, how they trained, how they learned, how they built their experience, how they built their confidence. And it is so special that you see other people doing what you want to do, because this is where your belief is built. I didn't know my belief was getting built as I was seeing the older players play. When I got to Little Rock Central High School, the transition was so crazy because I'm 5'7" and everybody else like 5'9", 6', 6'1", 6'2", and things of that nature. But how do you play with somebody of that caliber when you're only starting? I was afraid to play against them because I didn't know what I can bring to the table. So I let their size stop me from actually giving 110% because I was so afraid. Oftentimes, our fears is our biggest enemy because we don't know our capabilities. We don't know the power that we have within ourselves because we minimize the effort that we have. Why is this important? Oftentimes, we need to recognize why this is key to even understand. And it's key to understand because there's a process behind the journey. They didn't wake up these star phenomenal players overnight. Absolutely not. Mind you, I just got to ninth grade. They've been doing it for 3 or 4 years. So they have the confidence. They have the experience. They have the understanding. They have the knowledge. They have the training. So what I was afraid of was the lack of experience that I didn't have in order to play with them. But it really taught me that your confidence and your experience get built over time. You can't wake up the star when the star has to be trained. You have to learn how to be the star. You have to learn how to play your role. You have to learn how to do one task at a time before you can do 5 tasks at a time. But we're so quick to do 5, we're so afraid of doing 1. But when you are afraid, you're only afraid of what you can become because it's unknown. Oftentimes, what if you are good? What if you are good and can create something different for yourself? What if I can play with varsity? Am I ready? Was I ready at the time to play with them? Was I ready? See, oftentimes our fear is actually teaching us we are not prepared for the preparation. Oftentimes, that was good. We are not prepared for the preparation because we haven't put enough time and effort into our growth. Why am I saying this? Because in order to be the experienced, confident player, you have to be the student that learn how to understand the game, how to understand the play, how to understand your role. It doesn't happen overnight, it happens over time. That's why it's so important to understand that your journey is your journey because you have to start from somewhere. And we often compare ourselves because comparison is the thief of joy. Mind you, these players been playing high school ball longer than me because they've been in high school longer than me. So I could compete with them. But as I'm competing with them, I'm getting better because I'm learning from people that's already experienced. That's the thing. That's how being afraid is conquered. You have to get around experience so experience can teach you how to be confident. But when you do things, you have to do it afraid. You have to mess up. You cannot be the great because you don't know what you're doing. So I showed up every day trying to figure out how to be better than I was yesterday. I showed up every day trying to figure out what is my role. I remember my 10th grade year, it was the worst season I ever had. The worst season I ever had. Because they put me in an uncomfortable position that I never played before. I was 5'7", 180 pounds, so like a DB type size, a defensive back type of, my body was built, but I didn't have the speed. I didn't have that IQ for that particular position. I didn't have that intelligence for that. It was my worst year because I didn't understand that position. I didn't understand that role because I wasn't really practicing my craft. I wasn't really studying the plays and doing the extra work like I needed to because I was uncomfortable. And it made me so uncomfortable that I messed up everything. The plays, missed assignments, missed tackles. How do you make plays if you're not practicing behind the scenes? How do you prepare for the preparation if the preparation is already presented in front of you? How do you prepare for something like that? I was afraid to mess up, but I messed up a lot. I was afraid to mess up, and when I began to understand, I was afraid to mess up, and me being afraid made me mess up more. I couldn't get nothing right because I was afraid to mess up. And it's really understandable because I caused that myself. I caused the fear for myself because I didn't want to mess up. And me not wanting to mess up caused me to mess up. But what happened was that as I continued to mess up, I continued to learn. I didn't know I was learning, but I knew something was happening every time I show up. I can only learn to play so much. I can only watch the film so much. I can only do so much of anything. I had the victim mentality because I wasn't doing the extra mile. I wasn't going the extra mile. How do you develop your craft if you're not willing to do the extra that needed to be implemented in order for your preparation to be prepared? That's why my 10th grade year was so bad, because I wasn't the player that I needed to be in order to help my team. I wasn't the person because I didn't do the back end work. I didn't prepare for the preparation got presented. And oftentimes we try to do things so quick and we're missing the lessons. We're missing the growth. We're missing the awareness, because when you do things afraid, you do things instantly. When you do things afraid, you do things instantly. But you can only do them instantly if you understand why it's this way. Life happens when we understand our role that we're playing. To be afraid means that you are stopping yourself from growing. However, feeling the fear, understanding where this came from, you are able to overcome it quicker than you expect. If you're watching this video so far, make sure you go ahead and hit the subscribe. Make sure you go ahead and like. Make sure you go ahead and leave a comment on what being afraid means to you, what it means to you, and how do you overcome when you are afraid. To recognize your fear means that you are becoming fearless. But the thing about becoming fearless is that it doesn't happen overnight. Why? Because you can't be successful and change in 24 hours. It doesn't work like that. It does not. You have to really put the time and effort into yourself in the back end to study, to learn, to implement, to ask questions, to put yourself out there in uncomfortable positions, to be in uncomfortable environments as well. Because if you get around experience, you're the next person that can learn from them. But the cheat code to life is understanding that you need to get around people that's already is this experience in the level and phase in life that you want to go. But how do you build that resiliency, that confidence to say, I can do this just as much as the next person can? How do you build this? We have to find a way to push through the urge of quitting and stopping and preventing ourselves from actually trying. As you grow your experience, your fear goes with you. But now you have a choice. What is the choice? Do you let the fear stop you from growing, or do you learn how to work with your fear and become better than you was yesterday? See, that's the goal. That is the goal. That's the life's goal. How do we become better than we were yesterday? How do we prepare for our preparation when the preparation is not in front of us? We have to do things afraid, because as we're doing things afraid, we're building our confidence up. We're building our experience up. We're building our understanding up. But we can't do that if we don't understand what's being created. You see, the process is so fulfilling because you learn so much about yourself. You learn why things are happening the way that they are presented. There's always a reason behind the reason. Nothing's a coincidence. Nothing. But it's understanding this happened for that reason. How can I take control of how I respond to it? My 11th and 12th grade year was two of my best years ever. My 11th grade, I gave it my all because I was at a different position. I remember we was at the summer camp, and Coach Staley, shout out to you, Coach, shout out to you. He put me at linebacker. And when he put me at linebacker, it was like, this what I've been missing. This what I've been missing. The first or second play, I made the play. I made the tackle. With no technique, with no not knowing the roles or anything of that nature. I had made the tackle because he was like, just hit him. Just hit him. But guess what? I played linebacker my whole entire life, so I understood this role a little bit better than something that was unfamiliar to me. So yes, 10th grade was my worst year, but I also knew this is where my experience is coming from. This is where my trial and error is going to come from in order to help me build my confidence up. But see, there's a process that we have to understand. You have to go through the hard times to recognize how resilient you are. You are very resilient. You just haven't been through enough to recognize why you are this person. And that's why it's so key that we understand that what's happening today is for us. It's not happening to us, it's happening for us because it's helping us grow. You can't grow if you don't learn. If you don't learn, now you're letting your fear conquer you. But when you're afraid, when you do things afraid, this is where you are building your character and yourself all around. Why? Because you understand the process. You understand what you have to go through. Your fear will not go away. It will only build within yourself in order to become a better version of yourself. My 10th grade year, I needed to go through that. I needed to miss a lot of plays. I needed to miss a lot of tackles. I need to mess up a lot of assignments because I know how I felt now. My 11th and 12th grade year, I knew how I felt to mess up plays, to mess up assignments, to mess up things that I needed to do, that I was responsible for. I needed to mess those up. Why? Because the people that's coming behind me, I can show them how to be better. You see what I'm saying? You see how everything is just working and falling into place where you're constantly helping and learning. Why? Because when you learn something that you are unexperienced from, I was afraid. Somebody that's behind me is afraid just as much as I was. So how can I help them go from being afraid to building confidence and experience? Right? That's a process. I know where they're at. I know how to connect with them. You're not afraid of the play. You're afraid of not messing up. You're not afraid of getting hit. You're afraid of doing the wrong thing at the wrong time. That's what happens. Your fear stops you from growing because you're so afraid of messing up. You're so afraid of doing things incorrectly. But believe it or not, doing things incorrectly is what helps us grow more. It's what helps us learn from our mistakes. How do you learn from something if you never go through it? How do you learn it? I had to learn. My 10th grade year taught me how to be this person I needed to become in order to prepare for the preparation that was already presented. I couldn't prepare when the game started, but I could prepare when I was at home. I could prepare when I was practicing. I could prepare when I was watching film. I was preparing for my future success because my future success was right in front of me. And what does that even mean? I took the time and effort to know how to play the position and to be good at it rather than just playing it for the heck of it. Experience is built from you making a decision to continue when you are afraid. Continue to learn when things are not going your way. Continue to put yourself out there, because as you continue to put yourself out there, this is where you begin to grow into a unique version of yourself, because you are one of a kind. But when you understand, your fear will always be with you. Being one of a kind will make you become very unique.